Hi everyone, welcome back to video number 2 where we're going to be painting here the Wranglers. And so I want to work into this horse today, which is this one over here. And I went back in and worked a little bit on the cowboy here early this morning, and just kind of reshaping some of his basically his drawing here. I had made a small problem here on the rump when I added this horse. I painted into the rump here and smalled it down, and it was looking wrong, and so I had to go through and correct that. That's one good reason why, you know, when you're going to take a drawing or something like that, to use this, take off, if you're new, take off of, take the pattern off with that clear plastic like I showed you before, and just lay that over. Then you can see right away where you have a problem rather than having to sit down and, and go through it like I did. But one of the things, I just dropped my brush into my paint, so I get to fix that. One of the things that I wanted to do this morning also was to change. This morning I was driving out to the farm, and I had never seen this horse before. It was a quarter horse, but it was a gray dapple, and I had to go back and look that up because I hadn't seen one. It was beautiful, this gray dapple. So I went back and looked it up, and I found a photo of one. Lots of them out there, lots of them for sale. Only $15,000, but the beautiful gray dapple. And I thought, oh man, I'm going to change this horse right in here into a gray dapple. So I thought we'd do that. We'd work on this horse and work on some of the forward rocks. Maybe we can get to some of this area in here. And again, I'm gonna switch this horse over to this. And it's good to to look at your coloring, and good ideas come along. But I think with everything that's going on here, instead of him just riding a white horse, with lots of coloring and stuff on it, having a little bit more interest, especially going to, and this guy will soften out slightly and push him to the back. He will come out and he'll be the main part of the story looking out through here. Let's do this. Okay, so I had put on a little bit of coloring here. And, we got to put on this warms. And so I'm going to look through here to the warms, and it's right into the burnt siennas, a little bit of blues, blue violets. So we'll set up some of the blue, blue violet here, colors in here. And that's just a bit violet, so we'll add just a touch more blue. I'm just going to add some extender into this to keep this kind of wet for a little bit. Maybe a little bit of more violet, a little bit of tan color in here as well. The medium beige, that's beautiful coloring. See, that's what I'm looking for, that coloring right in there. That's what I want to try to find. So that's a good color in there. And of course we have the burnt siennas over here. And we'll burn siennas and a little yellow, even that Diarylide. That'll make some of this nice warm. We can, if it's just a touch too warm, just add a little bit of this sapphire. One reason why I have that out, it's just such a pretty. So those are good, beautiful dappling colors there, see, for that horse. That's going to hit them pretty good. And so what I'm going to do is I'll take some of this, and I'm going to work this right into his back hip here. Just short, choppy. This is a number 8 flat. So I'll work some of these colors in like this, sometimes a little bit heavier. And then we just short, choppy strokes. So you'll follow his anatomy down his leg and stuff with some of these colors here. And then we'll reach into some of the others as well and tap in. It's kind of like, you've seen me paint like we did that owl and stuff when you're going to dapple something up like this. And we use shorter choppy strokes. We work from dark to light. Sometimes I'll work back and forth a little bit. But I think this will be, and I'm already starting to like this coloring movement in him here. It's adding a little bit of difference here, and I just think that'll be kind of pretty into this horse. Break up some of the solid white areas, and of course we'll get some of that dappling up through here, And that'll be pretty. So we'll work this in, and again, you know, like everything, it'll take me a couple times, and he gets real dark, so we're going to even get some darks down in here around his knees and down his legs here. So that will really get a lot of interest. I think he'll be quite nice. Let's take a little bit of blue and some burnt sienna, make some of those darks. Real dark, slightly onto the sienna side. And we'll use that to dapple in a bit. And I try to, when I do dappling like this, I try to, just like with the owl and some of the other lessons you can find here on the channel, I try to use as large a brush as possible. So I don't have to work so much. So you don't want to just go in there chunk, 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 chunk. So you want, and if I need a smaller area, what I do is I turn the brush over to its corner, and I'll use the corner of the brush here to work some of the other color, the dappling here. Try to not set up a pattern, just try to get some of the different coloring and stuff in there. And we'll set it up quite heavy, and then we'll come back and fix it a little bit more. Here we'll put some of that dark in, but that's really going to give him a nice look. Let's soften that just a bit here. And of course the whites go in, soften it even more. We got to get some of this nice warmth. And this nice warm, even almost like an orangey kind of warm here. Just add some extender. I'm using the extender so it stays thin. So I don't want to really take out all of my light coloring of my muscling and stuff. I'm just adding a layer of dappled color. Does that make sense? And so, yeah, that's what we're going to work on. Change the color a little bit here. Yeah, that's going to... And then, like most things with the acrylic, I'll let it dry up a bit, and we'll come back. Now, see, that's where I'm looking for. See, you get those violets, a little bit of this warm color coming in here. The dappling on this horse gets a little lighter. So it gets a little lighter as it gets up top up there. So we've got to get a little bit lighter, and smaller. So, yeah, I don't know... where this particular coloring comes from. But boy, that horse was sure pretty. And I thought, man, that would be a real pretty horse out in this painting. So come back out and find it, and we're going to paint it. And I haven't painted I painted a couple of Appaloosa and stuff, but I haven't painted a real dappled horse like this. So it ought to be fun. And that's what it's all about, finding the fun. So as I go light, I'm going to get light. I'm going to go light in both the warm and the cool. And I'll do this again, and I'll do this several times, because I really, if this is going to be my center focal point horse, I really want to get a lot of interest into it. Oh, some of this cool color can come up in here onto his face. It doesn't get a real heavy dappled face, but we can take some of this down. Real dark eyes on this type of horse, this beautiful little quarter horse. I had a quarter horse for a number of years. She was fantastic. Beautiful little horse. Very, very good disposition. And loved to go for rides. And so we'll bring in a little bit into that neck here. But as you can see, I love the movement, the color movement and stuff. That's what I'm looking for. Let's take this now, a little bit of light. We'll build a bit of this light, short, choppy strokes, but try not to set up a repetitive pattern. That would not be good here. And they're in like that. And you can go back and forth. I'm going to go back and add just a touch of these other. Let's get that violet and blue. Too much violet. I used up all of that. A little bit of burnt sienna in it too sometimes. Let's just dapple up with a little bit of this. Pretty coloring. So this is called a gray dapple. Kind of a fun color horse here, right? And see, that's starting to catch it. See, starting to catch that feeling of it. And of course, as we get to the end, you know, we can adjust even more. Let's pull some of this big light area down, because we're going to want to keep the architecture, the anatomy of the horse close as well. But that'll be kind of fun there. Some of this right up in here. Here. Like that. So back and forth, this tapping into that. I want to get some of this really pretty, deeper, kind of deep, a little bit of blue into that. So I'm varying the blue. The Phthalo Blue gives you your real darks, and then some of the burnt sienna and the sapphire to give the nice variation to it. Here. There we go. It gives that nice deeper color in there. That we need to have some of that. But follow that anatomy that or those shadow strokes and anatomy we already put on. All we're doing is adding some other tones, some dappling to it. Here. And in like that. So you'll still look for the anatomy, you know, the little, that big muscle and stuff that's in there. So we'll still look to compress this area right here where that big muscle is. It kind of goes down. So you can look at the other horse, which doesn't have the dappling, and kind of put it in, and then, you know, kind of look to that for the anatomy, and then the dappling add to it, because the dappling kind of softens out, takes away some of the anatomy a little bit. You can't find it quite as easy, but there we go. Pretty horse. Of course, I'll have to tell everyone that's looking at the painting that's a gray dapple quarter horse. Yeah, he's a little bit big for a quarter horse, but he'll work. Yeah, here we go. A little bit here. Just yeah, that's what I want. See, that's just going to be pretty in him. It's going to take a little bit more work, but I think it'll all be worth it here as we get this coloring on him. It's not quite as you know, I've got a lot of rock interest. That was hitting me. I've got a lot of rock interest in everything I want to put in. And that white horse was just standing out there, and I was like, I could put more tones in there, more tonal control in there, but, you know, actually switching to a different, you know, keeping the base of the white, but then switching to a different kind of coloring on the horse really seemed to be kind of the answer here. And we'll pull down a little bit of this light and just let that hit in there, dapple it up a bit. There. It's kind of pretty. And model the brush. Let's put this big muscle joint in here with some light. And see, once I kind of like set the structure, then I can go over to the corner of the brush and soften and dapple that out using just a little corner. And by pushing different amounts, you will create, different sizes of the dapple here. So let's put some of that in there. There we go. And maybe some of this beautiful gray here. We'll push some of that right up in here. There. Kind of pretty. A little bit of the light. And then we get to do that dark mane and tail too, which will be quite shocking on the, or not shocking, but a lot of contrast onto this horse. So you can see it's, yeah, we can do a lot of fun things, but sometimes a painting is made or broken just by the type of a Western, just by the type of horse that you use in, your painting. Let's get some of this violet in with this. We'll put a little darker dappling there. So I will end up doing this probably quite a few times as I build some of the, and I want to, vary the lights and the dapple here. But I'll end up doing that quite a few times there as I build this horse here. And I want to get some other warms and cools in there. So that's feeling almost, too much the same. So I want to get some of those violets and stuff back up here. A little bit more on the blue side. Sometimes a little heavier color of the violet. And then little touches. So a little heavier. Push and slow down. And then over onto the corner there. To get some of that other color, a little bit of this warmth that comes in here. Get some of that color in. Yeah. So I'll do this a lot. We don't need to watch me do this all day, but I'm going to kind of take my time with that as I build this horse. And it will take a few times. It's going to take a few times for me to get the look that I want. But once you get some paint in there, okay, the dappling gets easy. So you might want to come through and put on, a little light coat of the white or something like that, and then work the dappling into it, like we did on the owl. That really works nice. Let's darken some of this back here. Some of this back here like that. Yeah, I think, and we'll use this, kind of draw out his little fetlock there. Yeah, I think that's just going to make a pretty, see how much more interest that's starting to drive just right in there right now. And so I think this will be the way to go with him. Get some of this warm bit in there. And back over to some of this violet here. And yeah, I don't know if the camera can pick up the color depth that's being built right now inside this horse is amazing. The amount of depth that's starting to happen. Let's put a little bit of dark here. There we go. Yeah, that's gonna work nice. A little bit of dappling up here. So I'll repeat this again and again a couple of times, and until I start to zero in on. So I put on some dark, and don't forget to, this is the Like this brush here. Well, most of it's gone in there, but it's an 8, and using the corner of it seems to be nice for this particular size here. And yeah, that works really nice. Some light here. Yeah, see that see how it's not just a white horse standing up there, which is what I want. I'll be able to incorporate some of the colors. Then I'll take some of that dappling color that he has, and we'll push that into the rest of the painting too. Let's put the warm color down. I'm going to use some open medium with this so it stays thicker. Just a touch of blue into some of this burnt sienna, open medium. This, I'm going to stay on this right here, and I'm just going to pull down here to set the flow of this, the warmth. So we're going to go warm and then into a cool, the darker color here. But we'll pull to get some of it, and you can use the chisel here, right? We'll here. I want to, do some various sizes of it instead of the mane here. Let's pull down, chisel off. There. Might have to repeat again, like most things, repeat this a couple times. As we get this up into the tail here as well. And so really what this is you got to think this is the edges of it and stuff. So yeah, this is the the very ends, the warmer little bit that you see coming through the light and stuff there. Yeah, I like that. And a little bit of dark here. Let's put some additional dark down. It's not like the Dungeon or anything like that, but it's just a little more dark here. Boy, it really changes doesn't it? This dappling this guy up changed the whole feeling of this entire painting. So, but we'll have to build some rocks and everything, and then see. I'm going to add a little open meat. I'm going to go darker now, a little more blue. You can even add a touch of the red violet to that to get the nice cool dark here. There we go. But that's really going to drive a lot of contrast right up here to this guy. Here we go. You can use a little smaller brush, but I try to use as large a brush in everything that I do as possible. That's just, the good alla prima feeling here. And, but I try to use as large a brush as possible because that makes the least amount of work. And, the whole job is to get casual as possible. And so that really does help. That's put a little bit of this dark in here. By the time I come back a couple times with this, that dappling's going to look really good because I got to get some light back in there. And that's what it'll do. This dappling allows me to do that. Get the light back in there and add some of the interest and stuff to this horse. It's a real pretty horse and very different. And you can paint back up into some of this mane to, so I'll take some of my light, some of my dappling kind of color here. So it's not pure white. And you can paint back some of the light and stuff back into the horse there. Just to, again, get a little difference. And some of the reflected kind of color that I use, especially up through the rider and stuff, you'll see up here, like on this, you see that light reflected color hitting right on top of that little bit of glow. So maybe a little bit of blue and some white and touch, very, very little touch, too much touch. That boy, I tell you, that quinacridone is really popular, really powerful. Let's tone that down a little gray. And right up here a little bit. There. That's pretty good. Might want to warm that a bit. So, yeah, it's, you know, am I going a little far? Probably. But I saw that horse this morning out there and went, man, you are a beautiful thing. I got to put you into something. And so I'm going to put that in right there. This is a little sharp. So I'm just going to blur that. For right now, maybe not towards the end of the painting, but for right now, it's a little sharp. So I'll just blur that out a bit. There. That'll be pretty. And now that we have this type of horse, his eye and eye area here can get quite dark. So we can build that up. And yeah, that works. So I will repeat this on him again, you know, and I might want to, just before, while that's still wet, take a little warm yellow and a little medium beige and yellow and some of the white, not pure white, take it down to like a 9 or so, and just come in here with the corner and reestablish a little bit of the highlight of the horse. Maybe a few little light areas here. And that also helps your dappling. Then just tap that around and get some of that dappling in there. Helps to get it. Now you could probably look up dappled if you want to paint it, you know, and have more of an accurate look to some of the horses. I have mine on side profile here, but you can just put in gray dapple quarter horse. That's what I put in, and boy, there's a lot of them out there. So you can find a reference that's a little closer to what you may want to use in there. Quite a bit of difference here, but though putting him in here as opposed to just the white horse. Or you could use just the white horse, or you can do a different colored horse, whatever you want. Boy, see, that's just really nice in there. And then I could just come in here and just dapple it up just a bit there. And that's just looks nice. And of course, most of the people that buy a Western, you know, they'll go, "Ooh, what kind of horse is that?" Yeah, because I had to go back and look. I knew it was a dapple. You know, it's different from an Appaloosa and stuff, but it's dapple. I knew it was a kind of a dapple. But I was like, you're a pretty thing. That's what I like to do. You know, we're in cow and Western and horse country here, and I do like to drive around and see some of them and take pictures of them. And I don't know, I mean, I've been away from horses for so many years now, but I don't remember all of them, but because this brain only holds so much now. but I do like to go look at and see. So use a corner of the brush. This is working really well. This corner of the brush as I build that. And see, it's getting closer and closer to that particular horse there. We'll get it. You know, we'll get some of that light coming down the side here. We can paint into the tail there a little bit. Dapple that up a bit. There. A little bit of the warmer light. So when you're dappling with the lights, like you could use that warmer light right in here. Little bit of yellow and beige into it. There. There we go. Like that. Very different. Now I might, if it feels too cool or so towards the end, I'll let this completely dry, and then I'll glaze a light yellow over it, you know, like the yellow oxide, and that will completely warm it up. Let me just show you. You can glaze it. You could use a glazing medium or just thin enough here. I'll just take a little bit of yellow oxide, a little bit of extender. Don't want to use open medium extender because you want to keep this just as a real thin wash. And see how that warms everything up? See how that just warmed that whole face up? So you could, towards the end here, even with the extender, if you just use it really light and the fusion brush, you won't disrupt anything that you're doing. And you can just warm a little bit. So if it feels like it's a little too cold, you can go to an old technique of glazing and fix it that way. But I'll have to, you know, clean up some of my edges and do all that kind of stuff, and we'll do that. We'll fix up some real darks, you know, some of the dappling on that dark edge, and then take some of this. Want to keep going on it, but I know I shouldn't, because I should probably, you know me, I'm an acrylic painter, so I like it to dry a bit and then come back. Otherwise, what happens is I just start to get too much blending, and I don't like that. But a little more right here of this warm. Let's look at that warm again. Get this warm, a little bit of blue into that. That burnt sienna is so warm, so just a little bit of blue into that. There we go. Such a pretty color. So it's kind of like, you know, we're painting the, and see, we're getting a little closer to that. So a little closer and closer. But, you know, and ultimately it's the prettiest if I let this dry and do it again. So I'll get different colorings. Otherwise, if you touch too much, guys, and that's the hard, you know, just like I was telling you with the owl and some of the other paintings, you touch too much, or a rose, you touch too much, too long, and it will all become one color. So it's best sometimes to get away from it and use a different color, and, you know, let it dry so you don't disturb everything, and use a different color. So let's go a little bit of a gray back here, put in this back side here. He's got I got to reshape some of his anatomy here, get his knee back, his fetlock out here, get that back out. So we'll have to do some of that, but that gets into the detail work, and I don't like to do too much detail right away, even though I'm starting to. I don't always like to. We'll dapple that up the side of his legs there. That's pretty. Now he's getting it. You know, it's like you know, I've been having a lot of people have been asking me to paint, you know, a Western scene with the Indians, with the American Indians, which is part of my heritage. And I was like, yeah, I want to do that, and, you know, paint them like on a really pretty Appaloosa or something. I think would be really pretty. Here. There we go. But there we get a good look to that horse there. It's just starting out, but that's a good look. And a little tiny bit. They don't really get dappled up onto the face. At least this one doesn't. Carry some of those tones. Carry some of those violet tones and stuff there. So we'll carry just a bit of those. But yeah, that's going to be pretty. That's going to work. Let's put just a touch of that violet back up over here. And then I'll get away from this. I'll do it again. I'll get away from this. We'll, well, let me just dapple this up a bit with a touch of warmth. There we go. Now, I'm not talking there because I'm holding my breath. I don't want, I'm just sitting there, just going stop, 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 and still painting. But Stop, stop, stop. Should be stopping. Let's just... See how that dappling works really well. The fusions work really, really well for this. Just like, you know, how I painted all those, the owl and, all the birds and some of the, the Fergus hawk and stuff with those. It just works so well. That's pretty. Let's get just a touch of blue. And then I got to move on, because we've got to do more than just dappling in this video, right? Here I've been dappling for 30 minutes, so we got to do a little more than that. So that'll give you an idea of that. Let's of how it's going to work. We'll go back and do some more and some more and some more on him, and I think that's going to work out great. Let's go back over to this one. So I'm just putting on another layer, and basically another layer is getting more paint on. We'll do that. We'll shape up the rocks and stuff in this video. We might end up doing 4 videos, but we'll get it done pretty quickly for you guys. Let's go back. More paint. So I want to start with some shadows, burnt sienna, a little blue, maybe a touch of the red here. Nice deep, deep, deep dark color here. A little bit of the, don't want it to go quite blue, but we'll look at that as a nice shadow here. Maybe a little more burnt sienna into that here. And you can see now, you see it starts to fill up a bit more of the weave that I'm using in here. And so as I'm filling up more of the weave, the real color comes forward. So, and that's what I like to do. So the color, the lights and stuff start sitting up on top. A little yellow, a little burnt sienna, a little bit of warmth here. But we want to keep this guy kind of soft and everything. So we don't want to, and we don't want to have a tremendous amount of detail into him. We will use a little more blue here, and we can give the idea of his mane here. So in other words, it's just a little more paint. And I want to keep those edges kind of soft so this horse sits to the other side. And I'll use some extender. You could use some open medium, but I tend to, whenever I paint shadows and back areas, I like the extender, the thinner part of the paint. When I paint forward areas and highlights, I like to use thicker paint with the open medium to keep my paints thicker. That's my preferred method of doing it, because, you know, there's a good rule of color, a good rule of technique in alla prima, which is the kind of artist I am. I'm an alla prima artist, and that is you go shadows thinner and lights thicker. So I tend to keep those nice and thin. So here I'm putting on another, we should dapple that, no. We're not. Keep a horses different. Keep a little bit of interest. But we'll play this one a little softer, so she sits behind this other guy here. Maybe play up the shadow here on this leg a bit. Yeah, we'll get all of that stuff incorrect, or incorrectly. Let's put it that way, not incorrect, incorrectly. We'll correct it all up here in just a little bit. Let's get some warm color, some yellow. Let's come back up over here. Burnt sienna yellow, a little white, a little bit of the beige here. And we'll start building some of the light area here on this one. And you can change the horse, you know. I had, you know, my little quarter horse mare was she was a bay, so she was basically kind of a orangey, like a burnt sienna color with black, and black mane and tail and leggings, so she was really pretty. And Every time I go back to paint one of these, I think of her, which is good. So I'll put a little bit of that deep. Man, when the sun hit her, she was just, this color just came out. There we go. And we'll warm that a bit. A little bit more and some light. We'll get that right up in here. A little more paint. See, I'm building a little more paint. And I will do this again and again. So it's like you've seen me do in other times, you know, all the other videos. And, you know, you'll see I use basically, not always, but basically the same types of techniques. I'll change them up every once in a while, but when I'm painting the Westerns, because I'm still learning, I'm grabbing you guys along on my little Western journey. You know, I've spent most of my life as a mechanical painter in decorative painting and in florals and stuff like that, learning that. And so now going into the Westerns, and they're teaching me so much about everything in the painting. So yeah, so we'll go a little lighter. We'll hit right about that same type of, right on the rump there where that light is hitting. That's where I put that in. And let's hit a little bit of light up here onto her face. Here, down this big cheekbone. But we won't do as much coloring and interest on her as we do on the forward one there. And I love if I'm got a really, really deep shadow there. Sometimes I'll break that deep shadow with just burnt sienna, because burnt sienna dries down to about a 2 or 3 in value, but it's a nice deep warm, and so it can add a tremendous amount of interest into the shadow. Just give you a warm note inside that shadow that's really nice. And remember that. It gives a warm note inside that shadow. It's a good thing to remember. And you can, you know, really cool that shadow off with some blue burnt sienna and then put a nice warm note inside that. It looks amazing. Let's just take some burnt sienna blue, little bit of the violet here. Let's keep this thicker. It's not going to be a shadow. Let's just draw this right in here for her tail. Right there. That'll be good. Maybe an idea down this side for the mane. She had such a pretty mane. There we go. Just an idea there. Right? And so you can see it's more paint. Now, the other thing that I did to these cowboys is, you know, when I started them in, it was all these darks, and I sat back and I looked at that and I thought, that's just a little too heavy. So I gave them their chaps. You know, you get it. If you don't know, give them chaps. You know, they're out riding there. Usually did. Riding chaps. I rode in chaps. So, yeah, you usually had them on. So I'll give them a little bit of yellow into some of that chaps there. And, you know, I'll go back in and add some more. Look at that beautiful dappling of that color. I've got to correct some of this stuff up here. So, but man, that really works. I'm going to be having some fun with that one. Let's put some of that light back in here. Clean up, correct up some of our, give her a little bit of our knee. We got to get some of this ground in here, which is going to change everything. Yeah, so we want that, see, we want that ground and everything in there. See how that's cleaning up and how that really pops her forward, because she's going to have a lot of color interest on this horse, and we don't want it to compete up against a bunch of brushwork into that background. So we're going to have to be a little careful now with our background. Yep. So, and yeah, there we go, just like that. And we'll soften some of this back through here. In other words, it's another layer. Just give yourself a, you know, take it another step closer. And you can see, you know, this is like when I was working on that and changing just a little bit of him, you know, I never take it to a point where it becomes difficult to change it. So I'm still not painting with texture or anything, because I'm not really there yet. So it's just thin color here, but sometimes getting rid of some of those holidays and putting that in really helps. Let's put just a little bit of thin shadow, burnt sienna, and a little bit of the blue here to the back side here of her. And flatten that rump out a little bit. I have that just a bit pointed there. Flatten that out a bit. There. Blur that just a touch. That's kind of nice. Yeah, so you can see, you know, sometimes you see me in the Westerns, I'll work the background and do all that and then come into my center of interest. And in this particular painting here, now I'm painting, you know, when you actually look at it, they're out of perspective to the rest of the painting. And I'll change that, and, you know, hopefully here before we get going, I'll get over onto some of these rocks and put them in here, and then everything will unify. But but it's kind of good to have this, and then that tells me through the rest of my painting there, just, you know, what I'm going to do. So, you know, if you look at, you know, when you step back and you look at this, you know, this painting here, you know, those back mountains back there, they look pretty good. I have enough room, though. I'll have enough room to add a lot more back in as I go through there, because this painting is getting a lot of depth. And it's getting a lot of depth because I'm developing a lot up here. Does that make sense? So I can develop a lot up here. And, you know, I'll be able to go through, you know, when you're working. Now, when I work this guy right in here, you know, I put it in blue, and I put it in dark first. I put in some blue, and then I came back, took it back all out with a gray color that is mostly medium beige, a little bit of blue, and a little bit of the burnt sienna. And you can actually see burnt sienna and stuff in here. And I just make the strokes, you know, put in some wrinkles and stuff like you see me do so many other times. And it works. Now, you know, most of the gray, like onto the whites, I love the grays that come from the medium beige and the blue. That just makes beautiful grays, and we'll use that. And so even though I'm going to come back through and paint this guy's shirt again, everything again, and I'll make a lower dark. Sometimes I'll make that dark with a little bit of blue shade, sometimes with a little bit of the brown shade, and then I'll make a darker one yet, which I'll use for some of my shadowing and stuff inside. And I'll thin that with some extender, but I'll use that for drawing some of the shadows. And it's really the best. I know it's kind of, you know, it's kind of hard to, if you know, don't always use the same color. Changing your color is really the best for everything that you can do. I'll make, and to the vest, it's your burnt siennas and yellows. I like to, sometimes it's a little bit too bright a yellow, so I take it down with some medium beige. And we'll pull down here. You can put in some shapes and stuff, maybe sometimes a little bit of blue. So I like that cross carrying of color here. You know, it just a little bit, leave some brush marks. That's really kind of nice. A little bit of the blue. You've seen me paint this on all the Westerns that I have here on the channel. So you can go back and refer. I'll paint them. And I am, you know, this is, like I say, this is like my 35th Western or so. I've painted a few of them, but I haven't painted a lot of them. There's a lot of Western painters that, you know, that's all they do. And their stuff is just magnificent. I'm gonna head there. Maybe I'll never be as good as what they are, but I'm really happy where I'm going. Does that make sense? And you just follow along this channel and we'll just keep going. Keep trying to loosen up our brush and find the, the best way to paint figures and all that kind of stuff. Loosen up our talent. Now, so just like I would use the same rose here as same technique here as I do in the roses. Once I express the color and then I'll move that color a little bit. So move that color, get into that habit of touching that color into other areas of your painting, and that causes some of the harmony that you see in all of the painting. Does that make sense? So it may become an accent in other areas of your painting. And that's what I like to do, touch and move. And so you see me do that with roses, you see me do everything. And so there's not a huge difference here, so I'll take a bit of my blue and burnt sienna here, thin it out. Let's put a little bit cleaner shadow right up underneath that guy there, underneath his hat. Maybe just a touch of medium beige light, some of these grays. Just to break that just a bit. In other words, get some more colors on there. Let's get some more back up over here to my warm lights. Maybe a bit of yellow in that. Model it into your brush here. And let's get some of this down here. Like you're going to get his shirt. And since the light is coming up on this side of him, just like my other guy I did there, I'm going to have a few areas that are going to have sparks up by the front. And then I'll pull across with a little bit of shadow. Let's get a little bit of our deeper shadow here. Pull across a bit to create some wrinkles into his shirt here. Like that. Okay. And maybe down here where his arm is going to be reaching to the front, I'll put a little more shadow. Some of that shadow, especially up along, you get a little crease and stuff up and along the elbow where they're going to have a bend. And you can go out and just look at photos. Just put them out in front of you and start to look. And these are small figures, so, you don't need to put in a 3-tone shadow onto an edge like that. You can just get away with 2, just a light and dark. But since I've stroked it a couple of times, you see I get some different variations in there. But I want to work the front here, that front edge, a little lighter. That's where the shine is going to be. Does that make sense? That's where the light is hitting him right up here into the front. And then I'll take some of that light that I used there. Look at that, how this dapples up, even this small brush here. It's going to dapple up this horse a bit. I'm going to have to be careful I don't get too light, but that's a pretty dappling color. Now, it dries down. You got to remember, so it may look like it's really, really light, but the heritage here dries down at least a value. So you got to remember that. There's a little warmer there. That's kind of pretty. There we go. Yeah, that's going to be a pretty horse. Give me another couple hours on it. Now you think, so I worked on it about 30 minutes or so, maybe almost an hour, maybe changing this guy out, trying to find his thing. So, and then we put an hour and a half, so 2.5 and an hour, so 3 hours or so right now into the painting. That's not bad to get this. If you're doing a full Western, you're talking a couple weeks of work to get a big painting like this. But we're going to do it a little quicker because I like the alla prima, the quickness of some paintings. That's what I like. So but you see, when I'm working like this and around, I'll work around the painting. Now, when you get in here, you can get lost in here, and we haven't added any of the real details. So one of the techniques that I've found that I really like, and I don't do it on roses or anything, but I do it here, is let's thin this out. Let's take some burnt sienna right here, so I have some wet blue. blue and burnt sienna. Make that nice, dark, deep color. Use the edge of your brush and kind of like almost sketch back in again some of what's going on. Now, I've got this saddle a little bit high. Should have a blanket here up underneath him there. And the saddle blanket. And got that just a little high. And we'll put the back of his saddle in here a little. Burnt sienna and stuff here. We'll drop that in. Build that one up just a bit there. And again, it's, you know, I use always shape following strokes. Follow the contours as much as you can. Leave little streaks everywhere you can. You can take some of this yellow and burnt sienna and a little bit of blue and then add some nice medium beige to it, and you get a nice color for the leather in the saddle here. And I'll push that in, just a bit of that, and maybe take the edge of our dark that we have here and put on the other part of the saddle there. Just, you know, I want to keep these values and stuff here really close. So you see I'm not using as dark and everything as I do here. It's a little dirtier, and that pushes him back just a little bit more. So I'll be doing that, watching that, and we'll be working on that on him, right? But maybe push this shadow right in here, straighten up his arm a bit here. There. And we'll bring that vest, some yellow, burnt sienna, maybe a little bit of that beige there. Right back up on top. Right there. Right there like that. That's kind of nice. We'll lighten up. So you gotta, I'm always thinking of my light source. Where's my light? And lighten up a bit. Even though this is the back side, the cool side, you can still give a little bit of light dark interest into it. Push that into him. Touch. A little bit of the beige back here on the hat. So in other words, I'm just going through, let's give him dark hair. A little blue and burnt sienna. Here. There we go. So you can see another layer of paint really helps him. And so I've got, you know, 2 or 3 more layers of paint, and then detail. We'll work those things again and again and again. Take some of those colors that we just used and dapple a little bit into this guy. This forward guy here can have a lot of stuff going on because he's the forward part. He's really kind of the focal point of my particular painting, and boy, we're getting close. We're getting really, really close to being able to capture that look. I got a little bit more. I want to set. I like that kind of darker area in that quarter horse there. That sets that big. They have that big muscle here, and big definition that I had on the white one when I painted it. But I want to set some of that dappling in here. There's a little bit of that. Soften that out, but you'll get the feeling of that impression. I'll have to build that a couple of times, but that's coming along. That's coming along. Okay, now before we run out of time, see, we're in it. An hour into just a horse. Can you believe that? But good painters will take longer than that. Let's go over here and let's work this these rocks and stuff right in here, right? So we'll take, and first let's do a little bit of shadow sketching of them, get some of their shapes back in. A little burnt sienna, a little bit of blue, a little bit of violet. Let's get a nice dark. Let's thin it out. This is a 10 that I'm working with here. And we'll come back in. Here's this big one over here. We'll give it its Just scrub it on. Now, sometimes these are nice to, you can put a coat of extender back up over this and work into that if you want to work in thin layers. It works really, really nice. Let's put that deep shadow in here. I do like this. Remember I do before? Is I like the fusions, and I like to paint with them pulling down like this, because I already get all this. This is called fracturing. And here where I had it pretty thick, you see I don't get that fractured edge. But if I hold it back like this and do it, I get this fractured little edge. Do you see that edge? And then that makes more of a rocky little edge. Or you can pull back slightly and change some of that, but that works. So, sometimes if you get your paint really, really thin, you don't get as much fracturing, but you can hold the brush and just drag it, letting it run out of paint, and you start getting that fracturing. So we have three things. We have light coming this way. We have basically in here, it's got that nice medium plane. Now we're adding some of these shadowing planes here, right? We'll fix up some of these shadowing planes. Scrub some of this around a little bit. Get rid of all your little holidays, right? And if you have an older brush, that's the best. This one isn't quite old, but it'll work for what I'm doing here. But an older brush, because I like to scrub out some of these colors and give it that rougher look to the rocks. So first draw it in, right? And maybe a little bit more blue into some of these. Kind of draw in their shapes. Rough it in a bit. Get rid of some of that. Get rid of some of those holidays there. Change your color up a bit. Maybe add a little bit of the Sapphire Blue to this, because they're both going to be dark. See, my original dark and this one, they're all within a value or so of each other. So, they're still dark. And we'll make a nice shadow plane to these rocks here. And I got two of them just kind of lined up here a little bit. Into that one, this one comes a little farther forward, so I'll make this a little smaller. We'll drop that one in there. And let's get some shadow plane. Now, if you're really, really good and you plan your shadows, you would want to keep your darkest shadows over here. Why? Because it promotes the guy. So I have that nice deep one there. So I'm maybe going to take and get a little more blue. And if they get too heavy, remember what we did on the last Western, almost there, that last Western, is I came in with that glow color. Remember that glow was burnt sienna and the Diarylide Yellow. And it made that little glow. And I broke up some of that deep shadowing that was there with that glow kind of color. Here, we'll add a few more little rocks here. They're kind of fun to draw in there. We'll add some of those. Let's take just a little bit of this and kind of sketch here. And I like this rock face, but I don't want it to be super dark, so I'm going to lighten this up a bit. Add some extender so it's not quite. And I'll put in this receding plane here. Just scrub it, because we're going to do that. So now you see the receding plane, right? Thin it out, scrub it. Let's put some of that right up along this edge. Break up some of the flatness of the rock. So I'm into a little bit of medium beige into this, and this has some of the violet color that we used here in the dappling. I just come right into that, and that's what I like to do. I like to always look to my, rocks are going to be grays and browns, and we're going to have the Southwest desert colors in here, right? But you can have those violets and stuff in there that are just so pretty, and add some browns and a little bit of burnt siennas, and just work those colors all right in there. They're beautiful colors. And we'll just work some of those. And, I'll scrub some of these colors on. And this carries what we call the color notes of the painting. putting in some different notes. It's like playing a piece of music. We're putting in different kind of color notes and different amounts of the notes, and that adds more interest to the musical piece, adds more interest to your painting there. So yeah, that works pretty nice there. A couple of little bits here that we want to soften out, and maybe I don't like this stopping here right at the same height, so, and this actually is a little too dark right there, so, but we'll draw this across. I'll take some of that out there, so it's not exactly at the same height. I don't like them. I like these to jag a little bit. Okay, so now you can see the actual rock faces a little bit easier there, right? And we can add some smaller rocks, which I will, but now you can use your knife, and I showed you on almost there. We use the knife, right? And the knife can slide color really easy. Let's go some yellows. Let's get some of the yellows and the burnt siennas here. And we'll get some of the southwest colors. I'm going to go grab some, look at that other painting I had there. First I'm going to put out some more burnt sienna here. And we'll put that out. And drop that in. Let's put a little Diarylide in with that as well. Model it up. Don't mix it up too much. Model it like that. And let's come right back in here to this one first. And I'll just, don't pull too long, too far. Break it up a little bit, right? In other words, so I pick up a bead of paint here, and I'll pull it, but don't pull it for too long, because you'll just make a big, long mark. We want to break these things up a bit, right? So, and let's grab a little more Diarylide into that, a little more burnt sienna, model that. Don't get too much white, you'll lose the color of it as well. So let's just drop one right in here. Don't pull too long. See, I stopped on that because I realized I was pulling quite a long time, and it was making the rock almost the same. I'm going to put a little light into this edge right in here. A little more light. You can tap and move it around a bit. There. The thing is, just create all of this different interest, right? That's what we look for. Try not to cover up absolutely everything we did on the first time. You're just adding more stuff. Does that make sense? Let's darken and maybe gray this a little bit, so it's a little bit of blues and stuff in there. So we'll grab some of this, just drag it over here, gray it, maybe a little more brown or beige into it, so it's a slightly different color, right? And kind of tap that through. And that's what's going to make your rocks really magnificent, is getting in all these different colors and tones here, right? Let's just grab that, pull that across. This is really a great thing to do towards the end of your painting for the day and use up a lot of your colors and paints, and mix it up, maybe a little bit of the blue and medium beige, which is your gray. Gray some of those colors out so that rock is a little different. You know, just maybe a little bit more here. Pull that across, maybe a touch more blue. Get some blues in there. Remember in that last one, of course, we weren't painting southwest as much, but in almost there, I put a lot of blue into those rocks as well. That you know, we can do a lot of different things here. So this breaks up, boom, some of those tones, and see, that's what I'm looking for. Just getting some of those different colors there. Let's grab one of that right out over here. We'll let that just kind of fade away over there. Most of this will get covered up by the frame, but we're going to do it anyway because we love to paint. And we'll drag some of that in there. And some of this color. See, I just break up some of that color. Now, let's come back in, back with a smaller brush. 8 or a 10 here again. And let's grab some yellows, some burnt siennas here. A little bit of white, a little bit of brown. Model that up a bit. Let's add some smaller touches of the rocks and stuff that we have. Smaller, like maybe there's some smaller rocks in here, right? Here, just not real sure. But I'm looking to just break up color. That's all I'm going to do. Break up color, break up some stuff here. And we'll divide it up. So how do we divide it up? We'll go back to our drawing again, right? Add some other colors. Maybe a little bit of this, like this is the light source side, so we can add a little bit of this into the light source, the side where the light is on the left. Darker out over here, side of the left. Remember, we have also just beautiful southwest burnt sienna. You can just get some burnt sienna in there. Here. There we go. Yep. And touch. Get those colors. Change the colors. Don't paint too long with one color. Does that make sense? So now you see how they're starting to develop. It's kind of neat, huh? And now as I paint this, look how it's taken away from these guys, right? These guys were like, whoo, but you know, because it's called perspective, and you can paint it out of perspective. And I've been doing this so long that I can paint out of perspective, and it still will bother me, but I can get through it. But if you paint something out of perspective, what happens is it starts to look just wrong. Everything you do starts to look wrong. It may not be wrong, but what it is it may have more detail than anything else in your painting. And so it looks out of place, which means it's going to look wrong. Have you ever done that? Have you ever painted something and then just gave up and then moved on to another part of the painting, then go back and, hey, that doesn't look quite so bad. Or you finish up at night and you're ready to scrape it all off, and you come back the next morning and you go, hey, that's not so bad. That's because you've lost what we call visual perspective for the painting. You've taken it out of, and you've painted something with so much detail, you've painted it out of perspective with the rest of the painting. So you move on and you start adding other things, and all of a sudden it starts to go together. Does that make sense? So never get, and I see so many people that get, I'm going to add a little open medium to this so it's a little thicker here. But I see so many people like get super frustrated on stuff, and their painting's beautiful, but they've got it out of perspective and they can't see that it's beautiful. Does that make sense? And so, yeah, we have to keep it in perspective. Let's go back over here to my shadows. We'll go with some extender and some darks. Let's add a little bit of, maybe even a little green into that as well. Nice little dark color. Let's work through some of these shadows and stuff like that again. I want to deepen this shadow. Don't take out everything I just did. Just deepen, put a little darker area in there. Thin it out so it's not like super, super dark. Let's get this like a little darker right in here. This would be a deep, maybe a cast shadow right down in there. Casting down. We'll add more cast shadows here as well. But here, a little bit deeper there. So we'll start to define it up a little bit more, right? A little bit more there. Let's get a bit more burnt sienna into that. Change that color. Here, drop that down. There. And a little more dark here onto the side. And try really hard not to take out what you've already done. Does that make sense, guys? You know, I'm going to fracture this up there, thin this out a bit, And just pull down the sides here. I'm looking for variation, right? For variation into the rock color. So there's a lot of burnt sienna right here, which I love, but it could use a little bit of dark right there in that corner. Almost like it's a little chunky rock here. And we'll build this area here again. There. I want to add some smaller little shadows, little chunky rocks here. So they're not always these big planar rocks there. Add some smaller ones in here as well. Matter of fact, I could probably just add a lot of interest and divide this one up again. See, once you get some of that stuff, you can start to divide it up pretty easy, you know. There. That's kind of nice. Here, and let's see, let's get maybe a little bit of our yellows here. And yellow and tan. Let's go yellow and that beige, right? Just a little different. And add some of that. So I'm working through some of my colors, see? And I'm looking for some interest. Now let's get some burnt sienna up there. So I'm working all these colors. Let's get some burnt sienna up onto that rock. Maybe some of this yellow and tan, break that up a bit. So you can do it with the brush as well, coming back and add. Like, let's just take a bit of that burnt sienna right up here onto this edge. And let's add this burnt sienna edge right there to this rock. A little bit of shadow here. Bit of blue in the shadow. But you can take some of that burnt sienna, burnt sienna, a little yellow and some beige. Here, make a medium kind of color here. And come back and just work some of that. Don't take out all of your shadow, but work some of that back in there. And add some variation to those shadows here as well. Because you have receding plane. So it's basically, more than anything else, it's a value painting, right? That's what we're doing. It's a value painting. And so the darkest values are your receding plane, which is the furthest away from the light. So that's where I really want to get those shadows in. And all of a sudden, these shadows, look at how these deep shadows here are changing the whole feeling of my painting. And all of a sudden, they're making like this horseman and the, you know, what's going on with the horse and stuff here. All of a sudden, his mane and everything else doesn't jump out quite as much, right? That's called visual perspective, right? Yeah, you're right, Dave. So we'll increase a little bit of light. Let's just drag some light here. Just flat, and it's thicker. So see how I get this draggy look to it, right? So I didn't add anything to the paint. Just using, and the paint is a little bit older. It's been sitting out here. I put it out this morning. So it thickens up a little bit. See how thick? And it'll get a little bit of a crust here on this top. And you can get rid of that just by mixing it up or misting it. Like, that's why I keep this. So if I mist it, that crust will go right away. But, you know, I like that when I'm doing rocks. So I like to pick up some of that crust, that edge, because that's this real thick paint. I like that so I pick up that little crust, that little thick stuff. I like that in rocks. So, you know, because you use that and you just drag along, and it's just wonderful. Gives you a nice look here. That's a little too light, so I'll just drag through it again here. Yeah, to break it up. Now you can also use your knife, you know, so yeah, and sometimes pull across get a different look to that rock. Don't always pull lengthways like that. Pull across to get a different look. So, you know, we can pull this way a couple of times and then come back and pull the other way. And you can take some of your dark here and you can come in and add extra little cracks, you know, to it. Take some burnt sienna, tap into that crack. I like to paint them bigger than what I think I'm going to use on them. Does that make sense? So let's just paint that one a little bigger, right? And then I'll come back with my light and paint out what I don't need anymore, right up to the edge of it. And so you can give like little cracks, little things, all kinds of fun little things. I'm going to take some of that crack away. I look for variation and color variation. That's what I'm building right now. And it'll take me a couple times, just like on the other rocks. Now the other rocks I used, you know, some of the medium beige and greens and blues and all that stuff to give more of that deserty feel to it. This is the Southwest, so I'll keep some of my oranges and stuff you know, handy into the painting here as I'm doing this. My burnt siennas and maybe even just some oranges like we did in the last. And you know, you also had in the Heritage line, like I've showed you before, we have that English red oxide. Its chemical index number is PR101. It's one of the oldest painting pigments that we have in existence. Naturally occurring pigment. It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful pigment. And it makes desert Southwest paintings just sing. It's a deeper old. It's the in the old terms of painting and stuff, it was called Venetian red, English red oxide. So you have some of those colors as well. We have them in the Heritage line. It's English red or English red oxide, because it is an oxide pigment. It's naturally occurring oxide. So, but that's in there. You can use that into these as well. It's beautiful color, deep, rich. Let's take a little bit of the shadow, maybe break up some of this a bit, maybe another little shadow line, little broken edge of the rock there, like that. So I start to add some other details here. Oops, that is really dark. So we just go right back up here and we tell everyone I just wanted to show you what not to do, and come back in and just lighten through that here. There we go. Just build those rocks, and we'll put in some smaller little chunky rocks in there. Just smaller little chunks here. And some red in there, some yellow, some different kinds of oranges. Get some violets in there. That's really pretty. You know, get some other little chunks of rocks in there. Just there, like that. There. That's kind of nice. You can make this one like that. You can make it a little bit more sloping down on that receding side, or the shadow side here. Push that out a bit more. Maybe make that real cut edge up a little closer like that. See? And so now your rock slides, and it can slide from a shadow there right down into the into a mid-tone area. Come back up right in here and divide this up again some more. Right in there. That looks pretty good. Add some extender if you need. And we'll work the shadows again. Here. Slowly. So it again, you know, like I showed you, you know, going back into the sky. It's like a value scale, right? It goes back to the sky. And so you can work a value scale this way coming to the light. Does that make sense? You can work a value scale on your rocks coming from the shadow right around to the light. That's kind of the way I look at it, because if light is coming this way, does that make sense? And it really helps a lot. And so you can slowly, you can have a few touches of dark, but your colors are getting a little bit lighter as they come over to this side here, because your rock's getting lighter. Does that make sense? And you just paint it, and you paint it, and you paint it, and use your colors thin here with the shadows. Use your shadows thin so that you do more sketching, because shadows in this overall painting, shadows have a lot of power to them. And they can wipe out real quick everything that you're doing. So you want to be careful. Let's take a bit of this. Let's model a little more yellow and burnt sienna. Let's add some of that right across the front here of this rock. Build that up. See, that's a real pretty little color going in there. And then you can break it up. Take a bit of darker, maybe the burnt sienna, the medium beige and blue, which is a real neutral kind of color. And you can come in there and break some of that up there, adding some of that other tone in there, right? Getting some of that other look or tone in there. There we go. And use a bit of that light right up by that edge and pull a bit. Let's just pull this right across. Pick up that little bead right across the knife, and light pressure, drag across, light pressure, and you'll get that fracturing coming off of that knife, which gives you that pebbly look, right? And I like that look on these rocks. There. That's kind of pretty. Let's get this a little lighter right out here. Light pressure, and you'll get that pebbly look. See? Light pressure. Light pressure. Boom, right like that. But stiff. I like to use the old paint that it's been out for a while now. And, you know, and that gives you that really great pebbly look. Here. There. You can soften or round up the edge. Let's say I want to round that one up a bit. So you can just pull a little dark right around and round the edge up here, pulling into that so it's not quite as sharp. Or if you want to, these rocks that I had the pictures of are pretty sharp, but you can, you know, take some of that soft light and just push back and push over the edge and round it up and soften those edges too. So every rock's a little different, and so you should paint every rock a little different. Does that make sense? Boom. Yep. A little softness there. There, like that. So yeah, those are really kind of neat, but I've got to get some smaller ones out through here. Maybe break some of these up a little smaller here. So I got to get some of these diminishing down in size, and some other stuff going on here. This is nice and stiff, so the paint is getting nice and stiff. That's really where I like to drag and paint the rocks. I'll just break up some of this area right in here, see? And so I'll do this. I started doing this a couple years ago. I'll break up like that, just drag some of the area, see? And then I'll sketch it, basically sketch it with a dark, a little blue, burnt sienna, and a little bit of the violet. And or you can go with a bit of the green just to give it a slightly different look of the brown. But then I'll come back in and put the shadow and receding plane in. And it starts to look like little rocks there. Fun stuff. I used to always worry about rocks. Now I love painting them. But it took some practice and some understanding. It takes some understanding of the three planes of the rocks. The shadow plane. And so here I'll create the receding plane of that rock, right? And then the forward light plane here. The forward light plane right there. Right up on top. And sometimes I'll put a little bit of shadow on there on that top. And you can cast, if depending on where your light is. My light's up pretty high, so I won't have too much cast light. But on the other rocks that I did, I had a real tall one there, and I put a cast light in. So, and you can see that on that other western, how to put the cast light on there. Yeah, let's take a little more light. And you can repeat this. If you get too much light onto it, then just come back with a little bit of the shadow or medium tone, and then restate it again. Thin this all out, really thin, and you can use this to really thin. That's a little too thick. Thin this out, and you can use this to sketch some smaller planes within the rock itself here. Little fractures and stuff into the rock. Here, break this up. I've got a natural little shadow right there, so I'm going to turn that into a bit more of a cut edge there. Change that around. So sometimes I'll put it on with my knife, and then I'll just read across the rock. What did happen with that knife? What is it telling me here? As I add some of those little things. There we go. Yeah, just little edges. Maybe that's a little fracture right there in it. Let's bring in a darker little fracture right in there, almost like that's fracturing into two pieces there. A little more shadow right there. Here we go. Maybe that rock is breaking there. Yeah. And so now, so you get all of that in, right? And then the next thing to do is incorporate some of the other colors through. So even though we have all of this beautiful stuff, it's really warm, even though we put some cools and stuff in it, but we should take some of the other colors from the sky and everything else into these rocks to calm them down. Does that make sense? It's harmony, right? So first we'll thin it out because we don't want to do major things with this. These are accents. So I tend to thin the accents out just a bit. And so we'll drag in, not so much to completely change the color of them, but we'll drag in some blues and some of the sky color, especially into the receding planes. Maybe in the receding planes we go burnt sienna and a little bit of blue. You can even go a little thicker here. There we go. And see, it adds that other bluish tone in there. And that just does great things to harmonize your rocks and calm them down a little bit. Give them another tone, another color here. You're just basically taking some of these colors you see back there right down here And even though this will have more contrast up here, you know, it'll carry the back weight of some of that other composition there, to some of the other colors here. Let's put some of that right in here, so they can still be the nice desert southwest colors, but have a little bit of this others, some of this other color here. There we go. Yeah, and of course you can get them lighter across there. You know, that's up to you. But, you know, you can carry, look to some of the colors that I did in the other, almost there, the other Western that I did just, you know, I was looking at it, I did that other one about a month and a half ago, so I try to get at least a Western a month, and I paint more than that, but I try to film at least a Western a month, because they are really good for your skills. They're just, you got to put it all together. They're really good skill building paintings. And that's what I try to do with you guys. Build your skills. Try some different things. See, look at the planes you get to paint in here. That's pretty cool. A little bit more blue. Just a bit more blue. So I'll come back in and, you know, some of these I'll just keep painting the colors back through. And you can, let's put a little fracture right in there, a little edge here. There we go. Just changes that whole rock up. But, you know, I'll probably, now see, I'm hitting the colors that I used over there, and I wanted this whole feeling to be a little lighter, so I might make that a little bit lighter yet. You know, I'll get into that, but I might put in some lighter colors. I do want to get in some more siennas as well, some more of the burnt siennas. And now my paints are all getting kind of thick and chunky. They've been out all day, except for this burnt sienna. It's been just about an hour or so. But, and that's when I really like to paint with them. When they get thicker and chunky, they just do great rocks. You know, yeah, just great rocks. We'll put a little bit of blue into some of that. So, you know, if you don't want to have quite as much of the, you know, the orange colors into the southwest here, just get some of that blue and medium beige into that, and those rocks will change over right away, real quick, because it's a complement, right? Here. And they'll change over real quick here, the colors of them. But they'll still have that kind of southwest look to it, but you can lighten them up and then control your yellows, your beiges, your blues, how much of that you put in, and that will change, you know, the orange basically of your rocks. You're in control of it. So you have some of the rocks I did last time, some of these rocks here, and I want to lighten up a few more little lighter rocks right in there. Some smaller little pebbly ones. I'd like get some of those, break up some of the, you know, like you can have a couple right in there. That's not a good shaped one. Pull it across. And then draw it back in with the dark, right? So we'll grab some dark. Well, get out of that brush. Pick up some of the, and a little violet here. Here we go. And we'll push in a little more shadow. Some of these smaller, see, so I draw it really nice. I like to draw the rocks with the shadows. Especially that I like the shadow of the receding colors of the shadow. But see, I'll add I'll come through here and add all kinds of little ones in here and break up some of that look of the large ones with some little ones. Maybe some different colors here too, you know, some different colors. Get some different kind of rock right in there. Yeah, and remember, this painting. The only thing you got to remember is this painting's about this guy. So don't get so much that you can't see this. You get so much interest over here that you can't see this guy over here anymore, because this is so interesting. Your eye goes over there. So don't get so much stuff going on. But yeah, it's really kind of fun. So I'll continue on here, and you have that other little rock video. I'm going to sit here and play on this for a little bit here this afternoon. I have a birthday party to go at in about an hour and a half, so I'm just going to play on some of these rocks just like that, so you can get that, and then I'll probably carry some of that dirt and stuff right back up over and through here. And of course, we're not done with the cowboys. We're not done with any of that kind of stuff there. We've got, more stuff to do. But that gives you a real good feeling of the depth that we're going to be able to have. And, taking some of these other colors and stuff right out through here, thin this out a bit, and you're going to be able to see the plane and the pathway we'll be able to create right down through here. It's going to be good, but it's going to take a little bit more. So maybe a couple more videos. But that's okay. I'll put them out right away so you guys can go right into looking at them and painting with them. So I'll try to get this painting done in the next couple of days with everything else I got to do, being a papa and everything for all my grandkids. So a birthday party, and remember in the, what was that one I was painting? She showed up. Oh, I was painting the dog. She showed up in the second video. My little Adeline showed up at the last, and she walks right up into the video, if you haven't seen it, and whispers in there. She's done that several times. So I decided to leave that one in. But yeah, cutie. Well, it's her birthday today. So she turned 6. So we're going to go up, have her birthday party. So anyway, thanks very much for joining. Hopefully you enjoyed that. This guy, I'm really excited about this horse. This is going to look really great. We're going to be able to develop all of that in there. It's just going to take a little bit more time, but that'll be good. It'll be a great painting when we get all done. So, and I'll do that. I'll get that going there. Don't forget to hit subscribe and hit like on that, guys. It helps us. Drop a comment in there. Martha's answering those comments right away. And, thanks so much for joining me on this journey, especially those of you who've never tried Westerns. Yeah, I've been painting them a few years now. I've got a few under my belt, and I'm learning a little bit more. And, I'll drag you right along with me as we're learning some of these other techniques, and then we'll apply them to roses and other types of landscapes and stuff like that and have a bit of fun, okay? All right, so I'll see you guys on video number 3, all right? Thanks a lot. I'll see you later.